"Please, don't kick me. I'm already hurt," cried the black waitress. Then Undercover CEO did this. The coffee cup slipped from Amelia's trembling hands, shattering against the diner's worn linoleum floor. Hot liquid splashed across her uniform as the businessman at table 6 stood up, his face twisted with disgust. "Can't you people do anything right?" he sneered, loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. Amelia's dark eyes filled with tears as she knelt to clean the mess, her knees already aching from a 12-hour shift. She'd worked at Rosie's diner for 8 years, supporting her sick grandmother and putting herself through nursing school 1 credit at a time. But lately, the cruelty from certain customers had grown unbearable. As she reached for the broken pieces, the man kicked at the puddle of coffee, splashing it onto her face. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the clatter of dishes. "Don't kick me. I'm already hurt." What she didn't know was that someone very powerful was watching from the corner booth. "Where are you watching from tonight?" Amelia Johnson had grown up 3 blocks from Rosie's diner, in a neighborhood where dreams often withered like autumn leaves. Her grandmother, Nana Ruth, had raised her after her parents died in a car accident when she was 7. The old woman's arthritis had worsened over the years, and the medical bills kept piling up like snow in winter. At 28, Amelia split her time between the diner's demanding shifts and evening classes at the community college, determined to become a registered nurse. "Sugar, you're wearing yourself thin," Nana Ruth would say each morning as Amelia prepared her medications. But Amelia would just smile and kiss her grandmother's forehead. "We're going to be just fine, Nana. I promise." The diner itself was a relic from the 1950s, with red vinyl booths and a chrome counter that reflected the overhead lights. Rosie Martinez, the owner, was a kind woman in her 60s who treated her employees like family. She'd hired Amelia fresh out of high school and had been understanding about her class schedule. "Education is the only thing that can't be taken from you, Mija," Rosie would remind her. Most customers appreciated Amelia's warm smile and attentive service. She remembered their usual orders, asked about their families, and made everyone feel welcome. Mrs. Patterson always ordered decaf coffee with her apple pie. Mr. Thompson liked his eggs over easy with wheat toast. These small connections made the long days bearable. But lately, things had changed. A new development project was bringing different clientele to the neighborhood, wealthy businessmen who looked down on the working-class establishment. They complained about everything: the simple menu, the modest decor, the speed of service. Some treated the staff with open contempt, as if their money made them superior human beings. The worst was a regular named Bradley Hampton, a real estate developer who came in twice a week. He'd make cutting remarks about Amelia's appearance, question her intelligence, and leave messes intentionally for her to clean. Other customers had begun following his lead, emboldened by his cruelty. "You need to stand up to him," urged Carlos, the cook, after Hampton's latest display of rudeness. But Amelia shook her head. She couldn't afford to lose this job. Not with Nana's doctor visits and her tuition payments. That Tuesday evening, the diner was particularly busy. The dinner rush always tested everyone's patience, but Amelia moved efficiently between tables, balancing plates and refilling coffee cups with practiced grace. She'd learned to smile through exhaustion, to remain professional despite the growing hostility from certain customers. In the corner booth sat a man she hadn't seen before, well-dressed but quiet, observing everything with thoughtful brown eyes. He'd ordered simple black coffee and seemed content to watch the evening unfold. Something about him felt different from the usual crowd, but Amelia was too busy to give it much thought. When Hampton arrived with 2 business associates, Amelia's stomach tightened. He always made a scene, and tonight would be no different. As she approached their table with water glasses, she whispered a small prayer for strength. She had no idea that this evening would change everything, that the quiet stranger in the corner was about to witness something that would shake him to his core. Hampton's voice carried across the diner like a blade cutting through warm butter. "This place is a dump," he announced to his companions, making sure Amelia could hear every word. "Look at this pathetic excuse for a waitress. Bet she never made it past high school." Amelia's cheeks burned as she set down their water glasses with steady hands, though her heart was racing. Good evening, gentlemen. Can I start you off with something to drink? Can you even read the menu, sweetheart? Hampton smirked, his gray suit impeccable and his attitude toxic. Or should I order real slow for you? His associates chuckled uncomfortably. Amelia forced her professional smile to remain in place. I'd be happy to explain anything on the menu, sir. We have a wonderful pot roast special tonight. I doubt anything here is wonderful, Hampton replied, leaning back in his chair. This whole neighborhood is going downhill. Soon enough, places like this will be gone, replaced by something with actual class. From the corner booth, the quiet stranger, whose name was James Mitchell, watched the interaction with growing concern. At 42, James had built a restaurant empire from nothing, starting with a single coffee shop 20 years ago. He now owned over 300 establishments across 12 states, but he'd never forgotten his humble beginnings. Tonight, he was here anonymously, scouting potential locations for a new concept. Amelia returned with their drink orders, moving carefully around the crowded table. Hampton had deliberately placed his briefcase in her path, but she navigated around it gracefully. As she poured his coffee, he suddenly jerked his arm, causing her to spill a few drops on the table. Now look what you've done, Hampton exploded, standing so quickly his chair scraped against the floor. You've ruined my papers. Do you have any idea how much those contracts are worth? I'm so sorry, sir. Let me clean that right up, Amelia said, reaching for her cleaning cloth. Sorry doesn't fix incompetence, Hampton snarled. You people need to learn your place. The phrase hung in the air like smoke from a fire. Other conversations in the diner gradually quieted as patrons turned to watch the unfolding scene. Rosie emerged from behind the counter, her face troubled, but Hampton waved her away. I'll handle this myself, he said. Time someone taught this girl some respect. James's hands tightened around his coffee cup. In all his years in the restaurant business, he'd seen plenty of difficult customers, but rarely such blatant cruelty. He watched Amelia's face and saw something that reminded him of his own mother. Dignity maintained in the face of humiliation, strength when everything seemed to be falling apart. Amelia knelt to clean the small spill, her movements quick and efficient despite her trembling hands. She'd learned long ago that responding to cruelty only made things worse. Better to stay quiet, finish the task, and hope it would end soon. But Hampton wasn't finished. As she reached for the last drops of coffee, he looked down at her with disgust. While you're down there, you might as well clean the whole floor. Looks like it hasn't been done properly in weeks. Thumbs up if this moment touched your heart. Please give the video a thumbs up. The diner fell completely silent now, everyone waiting to see what would happen next. In the corner booth, James Mitchell quietly reached for his phone, but his eyes never left the scene unfolding before him. What happened next would haunt the restaurant for weeks to come. As Amelia rose from cleaning the spill, her foot caught the edge of Hampton's briefcase, the same briefcase he'd deliberately placed in her path. She stumbled forward, her hands reaching out to catch herself, accidentally brushing against Hampton's arm. Don't you dare touch me! Hampton roared, his voice echoing off the diner's walls like thunder. Without warning, his hand shot out and shoved Amelia backward. She crashed into the adjacent table, sending water glasses tumbling to the floor in a symphony of breaking crystal. The entire diner gasped. Rosie rushed forward, but Hampton blocked her path. This is what happens when you hire people who don't belong in decent establishments, he declared, his face red with manufactured rage. Amelia lay among the broken glass, her uniform soaked, a small cut on her palm bleeding onto the white linoleum. For a moment, she couldn't move. The humiliation was worse than any physical pain. 8 years of dedicated service, of treating every customer with kindness and respect, had led to this moment of complete degradation. Hampton stood over her, his expensive shoes inches from her face. Maybe this will teach you to be more careful, he said, lifting his foot as if to kick. Please, Amelia whispered, her voice breaking like the glass around her. Don't kick me. I'm already hurt. The words carried across the silent diner, raw and vulnerable. They spoke of more than just this moment. They carried the weight of years of struggle, of working multiple jobs to care for her grandmother, of being treated as less than human by people who had never known real hardship. In that instant, James Mitchell saw his own mother. She'd cleaned offices at night while he was young, enduring similar treatment from people who thought money made them superior. He remembered finding her crying in their small apartment kitchen after particularly cruel encounters, her spirit wounded but never broken. Something inside James snapped. The successful businessman who'd learned to navigate corporate boardrooms with diplomacy and restraint disappeared. What remained was a man who'd grown up understanding that dignity wasn't determined by bank accounts or job titles. That's enough. James's voice was quiet, but carried absolute authority as he stood from his corner booth. Hampton turned, annoyed at the interruption. "Mind your own business," Hampton sneered. "This doesn't concern you." James walked slowly across the diner, his presence somehow filling the entire space. He wasn't particularly tall or imposing, but there was something in his bearing that made Hampton take a step backward. "You're wrong," James said simply. "This concerns me very much." As he knelt beside Amelia, offering her his hand to help her up, the cut on her palm left a small spot of blood on his white shirt cuff. She looked up at him with surprised tears in her eyes, not understanding why this stranger was showing her such kindness. "Have you ever faced something like this? Let us know in the comments." What Hampton didn't know was that he'd just humiliated an employee of the man who was about to change everything. And what Amelia didn't know was that her nightmare was about to become something beautiful. James helped Amelia to her feet with the gentle care of someone who truly understood suffering. As she stood, still shaking, he turned to face Hampton with the calm confidence of a man who'd built an empire from nothing. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," James said, his voice steady but carrying an undertone of steel. "You seem to think your money gives you the right to abuse people. Let me correct that assumption." Hampton laughed dismissively. "And who exactly are you supposed to be? Her boyfriend? Another loser from this pathetic neighborhood?" James reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, handing it to Hampton with deliberate slowness. The color drained from Hampton's face as he read the name. James Mitchell, CEO, Mitchell Restaurant Group. "You might know my company," James continued conversationally. "We own about 300 restaurants across 12 states. Including, as of last month, the building that houses your real estate office." The blood rushed from Hampton's face. Mitchell Restaurant Group was legendary in the business world, a company that had revolutionized casual dining and employed over 50,000 people nationwide. "In fact," James continued, never raising his voice, "I believe your lease comes up for renewal next month. My property management team and I will be having some very interesting conversations about the kind of tenants we want representing our brand." Hampton's associates had gone completely silent, their earlier amusement replaced by horror. They'd just watched their business partner assault an employee of one of the most powerful men in the food service industry. But James wasn't finished. He turned to address the entire diner, his voice warm and inclusive. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this disruption to your evening. This young woman represents everything good about the service industry: dedication, kindness, and professionalism in the face of undeserved cruelty." He looked directly at Amelia, who was still trying to process what was happening. "Ms. Johnson," she whispered. "Amelia Johnson. Ms. Johnson, I've been in this business for 20 years, and I can recognize exceptional talent when I see it. Would you be interested in discussing a management position with my company? Full benefits, tuition assistance, and a salary that would allow you to focus on your education." The diner erupted in applause. Rosie was crying openly, her hands pressed to her heart. Other customers who'd watched Amelia serve them faithfully for years stood up, clapping and cheering for the young woman who'd always treated them with respect and dignity. Amelia's knees nearly buckled. I don't understand. This can't be real." James smiled, and for the first time all evening, his face showed the warmth that had made him beloved by his employees across the country. "It's very real. Your dedication to this. If you've been enjoying this story, subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales. 3 months later, Amelia stood in the corporate headquarters of Mitchell Restaurant Group, wearing a crisp navy business suit and holding her first management evaluation. The numbers were impressive. Employee satisfaction at her location had increased by 40%, customer complaints had dropped to nearly zero, and profits were up 23%. But the real transformation wasn't in the numbers. It was in Amelia herself. The scared, exhausted waitress who'd once knelt on a diner floor, pleading not to be kicked while she was already down, had blossomed into a confident leader who understood that true authority came from lifting others up, not tearing them down. "How's your grandmother doing?" James asked during their quarterly review meeting. He'd kept his promise about healthcare benefits, and Nana Ruth was receiving the best treatment available for her arthritis. "She's amazing," Amelia beamed. "Her pain is manageable now, and she's so proud. She keeps telling everyone at church about her granddaughter," the restaurant manager. James smiled. In the months since that night at Rosie's diner, he'd watched Amelia embrace every opportunity for growth. She'd completed her nursing prerequisites and been accepted to an accelerated RN program that the company was sponsoring. More importantly, she'd learned to value herself the way others had always seen her value. The legal case against Hampton had been settled quietly. His real estate license was suspended, his business dissolved, and he'd been required to attend anger management classes. Sometimes justice wasn't about revenge, it was about ensuring harmful people couldn't continue hurting others. Rosie's Diner had become a Mitchell Restaurant Group location, but nothing essential had changed. Rosie remained as manager, the original staff kept their positions with better benefits, and the neighborhood character was preserved. Carlos still cooked his famous pot roast, Mrs. Patterson still ordered her decaf coffee with apple pie, and Mr. Thompson still liked his eggs over easy with wheat toast. The difference was that now, every employee was treated with the dignity they deserved. "I've been thinking about that night," Amelia said as their meeting concluded. "I was so focused on just surviving, on getting through each day, that I forgot I deserved better. Not because of what I could become, but because of who I already was." James nodded. The hardest lesson in business, and in life, is learning that your worth isn't determined by how others treat you. It's inherent. It's unchangeable. And it's precious. As Amelia walked back to her restaurant, she passed the spot where Rosie's Diner once stood. A small plaque by the door now read, "Dedicated to the belief that every person deserves dignity, respect, and the opportunity to flourish." That evening, she sat with Nana Ruth, helping her with physical therapy exercises. The old woman's eyes were brighter now, her movements less painful. "Tell me again about that night," Nana Ruth said, the way she always did. And Amelia would tell the story, not as a victim remembering trauma, but as a woman celebrating the moment her life truly began. Sometimes the worst moments become doorways to the best chapters of our lives. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales. Thank you for joining us on this journey of hope, dignity, and the power of human kindness.